right, everybody. Hello out there in virtual world. Welcome to Mr. B's Drawing Club. This is episode 5. We are going to be covering face shapes. Welcome, everyone. This will probably be a little bit of a shorter stream just because I don't think there's as much to cover, but I say that now and then, you know, it ends up being one of the longer ones. So I'm thinking it'll be shorter, but we'll see. But I'm gonna jump right into doing the drawing. I want to cover a couple things for those of you who you know, maybe haven't watched some of the other episodes. I'm just gonna briefly cover that, and then we will get into the new material for face shapes. So let's take a look at Photoshop. All right, so this was our last episode, when we talked about the anatomy of the face, right? We broke it down into, you know, pieces and shapes. Again, you're going to hear me say that a lot as we sort of do more and more of these episodes, is that you have to break things down into simple shapes. Even the most complex anatomy, either a face, a body, whatever it is, a hand, you can break it down into simple shapes. And that's what helps me create these more complex figures and faces and hands and gestures, is thinking about it like a puzzle with simple pieces. And then you put them together and then you can sort of manipulate them from there. So let's take a look. Just kind of a brief history of what we've kind of gone over. This is, you know, the head shape. We went over the Loomis head, which is just a basic head shape, which is this head shape, right? You can see we always have we always sort of have this shape here up at the top left hand corner. That's almost in every head. You're going to have that ball shape, that sphere, and then you sort of slice off the side, because, you know, our heads aren't completely round. They're round, and then they kind of flatten out on the side. So that's why we're doing that, right? And then, you know, you add your jaw and you have your basic head shape. Again, I won't go over all of that because we did it in another video. If you're interested in that, go back to one of the earlier videos. But that just sort of lays the foundation for some of this other stuff. So with that basic head shape, again, you're able to exaggerate that jaw. You're able to exaggerate some of the features. And you can start drawing characters. Like, these are characters. You can look at the top of their head. They have the same sphere-shaped head, the same sort of breakdown of where their brow is and where the ear is and how it, you know, slices on the side. But we just start subtly changing features. And I know some of you have talked about wanting to do character design and create characters. Well, this is how you would start. All right. Then we kind of started, you know, positioning the face a little bit more and turning it. And that's what we were just sort of talking about earlier, about you want your drawings, your figures, whatever it is you're doing, you want them to your audience to feel something, to feel like they're moving, to feel like they're emoting. And when I say emoting, I mean they're giving off an emotion. Are they sad? Are they happy? Are they curious? So again, that the Loomis head technique, or that basic head technique, can lead to so many different characters just based off exaggerating those shapes, changing the shapes a little bit. So that's why you want to start with basic, and then once you have basic down, you can start exaggerating. And that brings us to this. So really, we just took a basic head, right? That, again, that basic head that we draw the sphere, we draw the jaw, we cut off the side, and then I started putting all these different pieces on top to create this face, right? And you can see them kind of broken down. So now that we have the face anatomy, now we can exaggerate that face. So let's kind of take a look at what that looks like. Create a new layer here. All right, so I'm going to Always like to kind of turn the paper. This makes me feel like I'm actually drawing with paper again, which I like. So I'm going to draw a head. Again, we'll start with that basic shape. I always start with this basic shape, just this sphere. I like to draw these lines just to give me some guidance and really, you know, kind of remind myself that this is a three-dimensional shape. And you guys can see that, you know, I draw the lines that you can see a lot darker, right? These lines are the lines that we can actually see because they're you know, towards us. And then the lines that we can't see because they're behind, I like to draw them a little lighter, but I like to have them there just so, again, I can sort of feel the shape of what I'm drawing. All right. And then, of course, again, cut off the side here. Cut off this side. You want to draw this sort of cross here in the middle. Draw another line here. And remember, we drop the jaw. And again, if I'm going fast, just remember, I went over this in another video. So if you're curious as to how or why I'm doing this, we definitely went over this in another video. All right. So I'm going to stop there and kind of bring back our other figure. So I kind of want to have that as a reference. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to transform that. And let's scale that down a little bit. Let's scale that down. Just so we can have it, you know, somewhere we can see it. All right, so now this is what we're going to do. And I'm going to try to use like the same colors and all that stuff. Now we exaggerate those separate shapes, right? We just, maybe we'll make the brow bigger. Let's do that. I'm going to bring this over here. And I'm just going to pick a random color. So I'm going to make the brow, let's say, make this a little darker. Bring this up here. And this here. I'm going to make this like this. I'm actually making this just a little thinner of a brow. All right, that's not too bad. Let's have it going the other way. It's just easier for me. So let's make this nice and skinny. And again, sometimes it's hard to see, you know, what I'm doing until it's actually done. But I'm just going to start playing around with these different shapes. Right? All these different shapes that make up the head. And it comes here and kind of comes down here. Now you can already see this area here, right, is much smaller than on our original drawing. Much, much smaller. And that's fine, because that's going to be our character. He's going to kind of have maybe beady little eyes. So I just like to color these in. All right, we'll color that in a little bit. Make the side a little darker over here. And then we'll make the top kind of a bright color here. Okay, just to get the effect. So there's the brow, and I've kind of exaggerated that a little bit. Let's look at that green sort of patty area underneath the nose. Again, there's no like order you have to go in. You can sort of just piece this together and go, you know what, I'm gonna make this really big on this guy. Why? I don't know, because I'm just kind of experimenting with his face. I'm just experimenting at this point. That's all we're doing. Let's kind of experiment with that cushy little area. I'm gonna make it really big, like it's really exaggerated now, right? And we'll color that in. Let's color this all in here. And that's the thing, we were talking about that earlier, just kind of, you know, when you're bored and you start sketching and you start, one of the things that I found when I do that is you're a little more comfortable and you're a little more apt to experiment and try things when you're just kind of bored. So sometimes it's fun to just, again, take some of these shapes that you know how to draw now because you've been practicing all the time, because Mr. B told you to practice, and that's what you're doing, of course. And I'm gonna make this side my dark side. Not like Star Wars, but like this is where the shadow is. So I'm gonna just color this in just to give it some dimension. Right, this is my shadow side. So again, the light's coming from this way. So then my shadow, all my shadows should be on this side. Right, it should be a little darker on that side. All right, so I've got the cushy. You can obviously see it's a lot more exaggerated than our original if you look up in the corner there. So now I'm just gonna play around with the actual jaw, right? It's like that purple area underneath. And I probably should have done that next. Like I should have done that before I did the green one, but it's okay. We're all friends here. All right, so I'm gonna just draw the jaw out, and I'm gonna start with the darker color. Sometimes you guys can't see that if I start too light. I'm gonna make this jaw like really big. Maybe something like that. That jaw really big. Let's color that in so you guys can see the jaw. A little darker so you guys can see it. There we go. So I probably definitely should have done this one first, right? And then done the green padding. But again, just like that, the stream where I was talking about how you got to learn how to do a basic head, right? And then once you get really comfortable drawing that basic head, you can go back and exaggerate the features of that head, right? Especially the jaw and the neck and kind of like the shoulders behind the neck and you know, all those features. And then you start developing your character. Again, I'm going to put my shadow kind of coming here. And this is all very fast. Very fast. All right, and let me grab that green again, just so I can outline it. I like to be able to see like the different parts. All right, now comes the nose. This usually is what kind of brings everything together. You can kind of see the face there, but not really. So let's do the nose. And I'll do that. I gotta try to get these darker colors. I'm gonna do that in blue like we did last time. And here comes the nose. I'm gonna do a really exaggerated nose. Make that a little darker so you guys can see it. Really exaggerated. Come out this way. Come here. Come down this way. There's the nose. Really like cartoonish, exaggerated. I'll color in right here. There's the nose. We'll make the side a little darker again because that's where the shadow is. And on this side. But there you go. I mean, look at that face now. That's a completely different face, right? That's a completely different face than the normal, quote unquote, basic shape. And all I did was take the same pieces and I squished them, I stretched them, I exaggerated them, but I was able to do that with some confidence because I could really understood and I really practiced the basic face and I understood the face anatomy and how it's stacked on each other, right? So again, it's worthwhile practicing. I just noticed we forgot to put an ear on this guy. Let's do the ear. And again, you can exaggerate the ear if you want. I don't think I'm gonna. I'm not in the ear exaggerating mood, whatever that means. So I'll just put an ear here. But you guys can kind of see. I just want you guys to see the ear. I'll color in the ear here. And we'll do a little lighter color on top. But there's a face, right? Obviously a bigger face. He's got squintier eyes. His forehead's maybe a little bigger. So, and that's all built off of, you know, I didn't do it, but there could be a face back here, right? Your basic head shape is behind there somewhere. I didn't do it. I just did the face at this point, but it's behind there. So let's do one more just so you can kind of see the differences. I'll do one more kind of face exaggeration, and then, you know, I'd love to see you guys start experimenting with some of this stuff. So I'm going to, is it going to scale everything? Yeah, so it's going to scale both of those, which is okay. But I'm going to put this up here. So that's one type of face shape that I exaggerated. Let's do maybe a younger face shape. So let me add a layer here. Let me pick these colors again. All right, so yeah, with a younger person, like a child, maybe like a toddler, that kind of age, the forehead's a little bigger, right? The nose is a little smaller and the chin's a little smaller. So we know that already. We know what pieces we need to make bigger, what pieces we need to make smaller. So now we just have to practice and do it. So let's try that. All right, so I'm gonna draw, let's draw toddler. All right, let me get the colors down first. There we go. I'm going to start with the brow shape. Again, I'm going to make this a little bigger. There we go. For this area underneath, you know, the brow, I'm making a lot bigger. And not perfect, but you can see the difference already. Look at all the space I have, you know, here. Look at all this space compared to the last drawing I just did, right? Even on the side here, right? You can see this side. Look at how much narrower that other one was. So already the character is going to be different. Right? It's not going to look like our original. It won't look like the one we just did. And that's, you know, that's what we want. Right? That is what we want. That's too dark. Erase that. I don't want it to look too similar. There we go. And then, again, I'm just using shading because it's something I encourage you guys to get used to, because the shading adds dimension, it adds depth, and it just helps you understand how things lay on each other, like how they, you know, the light interacts with it, and it just really makes your drawings come to life once you sort of understand. And you're not going to understand it right away. So again, don't get frustrated if you're like, how come my stuff doesn't look like Mr. B? I've practiced, believe me, I'm not going on this live stream, you know, doing it for the first time. I'm practicing and then showing you guys what I know. All right. Let's actually, I'm going to do the green. I know I should probably do the jaw first, but I like doing the green area first because I just like to establish how big that is first. So that's a personal preference of mine. I know, you know, you might talk to some artists who use the same technique that they don't like to do that, but they're not here. I'm here. So this is how I do it. So I'm going to start with the cheek again. And again, I'm not going to go as big and wide as I did with that other. I'm going to be very sort of modest where these cheeks are. And because it's like a toddler, I'm going to kind of poke the cheek out a little bit on this side. Right? Come back in and maybe stop right there. Maybe that's, you know, and I don't know if that's going to work. We're going to find out together if this is going to work or look good. But you guys know enough about drawing and art and stuff that if it doesn't work, we'll go back and fix it at some point. But you don't know till you try. All right, and I'm going to add this shadow again on this side because I want to, you know, again, sort of have that dimension for myself, really. Again, remember, shadow over here, light is coming this way. All right, so now I'm going to work on the cheek. Oh, I'm sorry, the jaw. So remember, the jaw is going to be really small because this I want this character to be a child. And I encourage you guys, jump on. Hey, Taylor, I just saw you in the chat. It's good to see that you're still here with me. I'm going to, so when you study, when you're drawing characters, even when you're drawing cartoon characters, right, there is value in just looking at pictures and dissecting faces and anatomy. You'll be able to easily see the dimensions of a toddler. Their ears in proportion to their face just are bigger. Their eyes are bigger. Their jaws smaller. Their forehead's bigger. You'll start to notice these things. And because you know this technique, you'll know how to translate that into a drawing. You'll know how to exaggerate that into either you know, a cartoon drawing or anime or whatever, or maybe you just want to do a realistic drawing. It's the same thing. You're breaking it down the same way. All right, so the jaw we just discussed is going to be really tiny. So it's not going to go past the cheek area, that green area, too far. You can see on this one, right, the space between the green area and the bottom of the jaw is fairly wide. It's fairly wide there, right, because it looks like a big person, a big man. But we don't want to have that same sort of length between that. We want it to barely have any. So maybe even just right there. And again, I hope this turns out good. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see together. Looking decent so far. And I'm going to color in that jaw area. All right. I'm going to grab the darker purple here and again just kind of shade just a little bit here. All right, so far so good. You can see the different shape already. Now to the nose. This is usually what like brings the drawings together. So we want to make this nose. It's going to start in the same area, right? Like right on this brow at the top. You can see the nose starts in the same area, but they're all different. And it comes down into this green padded area of the face. Again, I'm going to make that darker so you guys can see that. All right, and then this is where you just kind of play around with the shape of the nose. Draw a little nose there. All right, so we have our nose. I'm gonna color this in. Actually, let me get this color here. Color in this nose. And especially with noses, you want to kind of make sure. I like to shade them because, you know, again, it just makes the nose, for lack of a better terms, kind of pop a little bit and give it some dimension. Bring this down here. And I'll even give some shading on the face a little bit because the nose casts a shadow. Right, I'll put a little darker green around the nose there. Right, because your nose casts a shadow. When you look at people's faces, you know, around the nose, it casts a shadow. So there's that. Let's not forget the ear this time. And again, this ear will kind of be a little bigger, right? You can see the ear kind of, the bottom part of the ear is like right by the jaw. Right by the jaw. And then curve that ear there, fill in the ear. Change the color here. Whoops. And there's our face, right? So there's two great examples of just the different things once you break things down. Once you break things down and you learn these sort of techniques to break things down into their basic shapes, whether it's the head anatomy, right? And then you can mess with the head shape, or it's the face anatomy and then you mess with the face shape. So again, we talked a lot about developing your own characters and breaking out of that sort of area where you're just drawing other people's stuff or you're just drawing other people's characters. And a lot of you have said, well, I want to start learning how to draw my own characters. This is how you do it. But you have to learn the basics. It's like anything else. If you're playing an instrument, you got to learn the chords and the scales. If you're playing athletics, you got to learn the basics of whatever it is you're doing first. And when you get good at the basics, especially with drawing, now you can start exaggerating. So learn the head anatomy, learn that technique, that Loomis head, where it's, you know, the spear, you cut it off, you bring the jaw down, and get into it. Just practice that. Some of you talk about, like, you know, you're bored or you're not inspired. I'll tell you, when I get bored and I'm not inspired, I will just practice things. I will just practice these techniques that I'm showing you, drawing a head, drawing a Loomis head, exaggerating the jaw, drawing the face anatomy and then exaggerating it. And every once in a while, just because I'm practicing, I go, ooh, that's an interesting shape, or that's an interesting looking character. I'm gonna practice on this. I'm gonna draw more details and give them a backstory and all this good stuff. All right, but you got to practice the basics. So, all right, I don't know what we're at. Looks like we are just about done. I'm gonna wrap up, everybody. Again, thank you guys for showing up. I know this was a bit of a shorter stream, but this is an important one. Just because it's one of my shorter ones doesn't mean like it's less important. I mean, look at the screen right now. We have two different, completely different characters made with the same pieces in the same face anatomy. So practice that anatomy, get comfortable with it. When you're comfortable with it, start exaggerating and playing around with those shapes. All right. I will see you guys next week. And I don't know what our topic's going to be yet, so it'll be just as much of a surprise to me as it will be for you. See you next week, guys. Bye.